So we're back with this episode. Hopefully I did a musical intro at the beginning this time, because I was planning to do that, but we didn't do it this time. And today we're going to be talking about something that we call inevitable, because I want a more creative intro this time. We're going to be talking about the two things people say are inevitable in life. Inevitable. Death and taxes. We're talking about the second one here.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the man with the deep voice you heard over here, the artist supreme.
I'm not a supreme artist, dude. I suck.
It's like a WWE intro for God's
Yeah, I
sakes.
know.
The man with the artist pen, because the rest of us can't draw.
The artist. So,
AKA Wesley. We have the man who
man of
has
toast.
You may, yeah. And he was.
And then we have our man with the resident furry mask. The one whose persona is a what is it again?
Well, I actually am more of like a tentacle guy.
oh yeah,
It's not a persona; it's a reptile sona.
wait.
So the reason we
For
came
now.
the reason we came onto this topic, we decided on this topic was we had a chat about it for it, and initially why it was me and Cam had a disagreement. I don't know how many, like it was a week and a half ago, where
I don't remember.
it
It must
was
have been like really minor. Well,
anyway, it was not that major, but Cam we were talking about tax, how I was in favor of a progressive income tax, and Cam was more in favor of a what's it called?
no tax.
Well, a no tax, but if there was going to be any tax, it was even tax.
I think you're either twisting my words or we didn't. Talk.
If I'm not mistaken.
No, I didn't really push for that. I was more pushing against taxes as a whole. Will.
Okay.
Okay,
No offense.
here's the thing.
This was a really small conversation.
I
This was like not something I took seriously or.
Okay.
I have a feeling like you guys probably know a little more about this than I, just because I'm not super into the whole taxes thing in the first place. So why
I
don't
don't think anyone's into the taxes thing.
Well, anyway, but just to get it out there, whatever. Treat me like an audience member. I don't really know what the fuck. Like let's say I don't want to pay taxes anymore.
No
Why
offense,
should we pay taxes?
You got to pay taxes for all the things the government does. That's why I think.
Yeah, but then there.
But yeah,
Why should the government? Why
Continue.
should you agree with everything the government's doing? And if you disagree, why should you pay taxes?
Mm-hmm. So
And
what's
why-
your rebuttal to that?
And here's the thing: is that even if you agree with it, what if someone disagrees with it? And should the big man be forced?
That's actually a great. It's honestly a great
I
argument.
legitimately.
I agree.
I don't believe in forced taxation.
No, hold on a second. I agree that it's a great idea. For a great way to put this is you take conservative and take a liberal. I saw this in a video once actually. You take conservative and a liberal. You put like cups on the table. You have under these three cups is one's abortion, one's the death penalty,
Yeah.
and one's war.
Yeah.
So you pull up you shuffle them around. You pull up the war cup. Who thinks that's murder? The liberal does. Put it down. Switch it all around. You pull up abortion. Who thinks that's murder? The conservative does. Put that down. Switch it all around. Pull up what's it called?
The death penalty.
Death penalty. Yeah, I said that before, and thank you for reminding me. The liberal thinks that's murder.
Now, what about
And-
me, who thinks that all of that and above is murder?
Well,
It doesn't care.
that's what. Wait, hold on a second. That's what I'm getting to. So, that was a justification. Different groups of people think that different things are murder,
Okay.
and Wesley, for example, here thinks that all three of those are murder
Yeah.
and shouldn't be paid for by our government tax dollars. Do you think?
Should it? No.
No. Okay. See, he doesn't believe that we should be paying to murder people, right?
If I'm gonna murder someone, I'll do it on my own dime. You know what I mean?
Dime.
Yeah. I don't need no one else for that.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Stay away from Wesley.
No. Okay. What do you think?
So honestly, I don't necessarily agree that all of those are murder, but I don't think the government should be necessarily taking your money to do that stuff. When I say like for example the abortion issue, I don't necessarily agree with abortion, for example. I think we should take the government out of quite a few things, but we need things that are essential services and there's disagreement on what are essential services to which we need to be taxed for.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things I think is the army, which is the reason I think it's an essential service is because it's non-discriminatory on who it protects. It just protects everyone within the nation.
No.
That's a little sketchy there.
Hear me out.
There's... Okay?
Is it okay if I
Yeah,
go for it.
Go.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, go.
I don't know if I'm cutting
Go for it.
Who cares?
It's all good.
Make too big of a deal. I only agree with having a military if its only goal is to protect. And if I don't like the business of war.
Actually, that's an interesting
all it
concept.
is.
We were
I
talking
don't-
about Japan earlier. So Japan has an interesting concept where it's the Japanese Self-Defense Force. Or it's like United Japanese Defense Force.
Whatever it is. Their military.
Their military, the only areas they're allowed to operate in is Japan and its surrounding territories.
Yeah, but they also don't have the kind of funding that we in the United States have.
Yeah,
Japan-
but it's
Japan's not some super weak military though.
No, they're not. They're definitely not.
But their specific, like they're in their
That's what it should
goals,
be.
it's we defend Japan and that's it.
Because once you start seeking out war, you start seeking out interests that are separate from the freedom of your people, which is what I think should be the only goal of government. Is freedom and protecting freedom.
Here's the only problem with that. If you have alliances with other countries and those other countries get attacked, you obviously go to defend those countries, correct?
Because Canada is a mercenary state, which is why that is the case.
We shouldn't be though.
We shouldn't be, but here's the problem. As soon as you get into war, right? Realistically, there shouldn't be a military, in my opinion. Because if you're going to get into the business of war, protective, quotation marks, or otherwise, you're going to go down a bad path no matter what. Eventually, you're always going to end up killing a shit ton of people.
No,
Yeah.
I think the point here is that you're protecting your own nation in the case of someone trying to kill a shit ton of people, and I think that needs to be assured in military. Because I used to agree with the extremely libertarian idea of dissolving pretty much the entire military, but once you start dissolving most of your military, you start dissolving your entire nation.
Well, then let me just be clear then. I don't mean like, hey, Canada should just fuck off with military and do their own thing, because in the current state of things, we'll get fucked up. That's the
exactly.
case. So here's the thing
I'm
though,
with
right?
you on that.
So
Because if there was no threats, then I would agree with the military being dissolved.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So, and this is speculation. You're gonna have to do your own research on this.
Of course.
But it is my knowledge that the reason why ISIS even exists in the first place, which was a super big threat that we were all latching on to, the US and Canada and a lot of other places, the only reason why those guys exist is because of Hillary fucking Clinton. And it's like, you could tell me, and you can do your research on this. This is just my opinion, but you can do your research and do whatever. If that was the case, and if we just had a better handle on one or two, and that's paraphrasing because in reality it's like 1,500 or so of these people, a lot of war and a lot of threats would dissolve very
He's
fast.
talking about the deep state, by the way. We talked about this in
Exactly.
the last episode, which we...
And I'm
we should
not
go
going to go
check
into
out.
it. I'm not going to go
Yeah,
into it
but
big.
I was just going to say,
I can't
that-
comment because I don't know.
honestly, I don't know that you said Hillary Clinton
Hillary Rodham Clinton
was the only...
well,
cause.
okay. When
I
I,
don't
say
think it's
only,
fair. I don't think it's fair to say the only. I think
no.
there's-
Okay, so
I think there's a multiple causes.
Okay.
You could say
Let me-
some things are more impactful than others.
let me asterisk this. Let me asterisk this by saying, did she pull the trigger on the operation? Yes. Did she carry it out? No. Did she have people that carried it out for her? Yes.
But I think there was also surrounding things with...
Well, she did it because she got the orders to do it from the higher ups.
No, that's not even what I'm talking... I'm talking about like other things that are more tangible, like that people, the everyday person can see in their real life.
I can see war in my real life every day of the week.
For example, many people argue that within Islamic texts,
Yeah.
like Sharia law as an example, it's necessarily violent. You can people look at the history and other things,
And
like
what's
that,
your point?
and how it's been
what is?
how it's been used, and just saying that people say this is one of the causes of ISIS. I don't think it's intellectually honest to say something is the only cause, unless
Middle East is a comp.
If someone pulls a trigger on something and signs off, and it's them that has the like, if there's a choke point and this person has the go-ahead. If they don't sign this, it doesn't happen, and they choose to sign it, that person is not the only person involved, but they are majorly responsible.
Yes. But I don't think it was even... I don't know of that signatory
I don't want to get into
meeting.
Well, the story itself, look it up. That's on you guys.
But
That's
I
not
was
me.
just gonna say, even in that situation, I don't think it's the best thing to do to say this is the only thing that caused it.
Well, I'm not saying that. I just
No,
explained to you how.
No.
I'm not saying
I mean,
that.
like this whole
here.
this whole operation is the only thing that caused it. I don't think it's necessarily perfectly solid to say that operation that involved Hillary Clinton was the only thing that caused.
Well, if we want to be technical, the only reason why all of war happens in the first place is because a planet blew up in our solar system billions of years ago. But
yeah,
but
obviously.
here's the thing: cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Where you want to start the line is where you want to start it. But the fact that Hillary Clinton had the power to aid with funding to terrorist organizations is a huge part of why there was a threat from that sector.
Mm-hmm.
And if she had not done that, there would not be this threat. There would not be decapitations that we're all worried about seeing, right? That wouldn't have happened if she had just fucked off.
Man, what happened to being an audience member? Only one.
Well, I'm an audience member when it comes to things I don't know about.
A lot
I know about taxes, I know about conspiracies.
A lot of people- A lot of
funny.
people talk about what's it called? World War II. For World War II, how there was this deal with some Islamic leader where they were going to establish a new caliphate and it was going to be stable.
All
But
right.
England and France broke that deal during the Treaty of
Versailles.
Versailles. No, it was World War II.
I can't think of
Well, they had to break the treaty in World War II because in World War One it was created afterward. Yeah.
No, you're thinking of the Treaty of Versailles.
The Treaty of Versailles was broken.
That was
That was the one.
that's
in
the
World War
only
I.
treaty that everyone talks about. The small
That
ones
was the
like
treaty
that, I can't think of.
So I'm talking about.
I kind of know what you're talking
Anyway,
about. I can't think of the name. I don't know.
I forget the name of what the peace treaty that was
Sure, it's
signed
a
after
treaty
World
of
War
some
II.
kind, yeah.
The
Doesn't
armistice.
matter too much.
Anyway, I was just going to say that a lot of people talk about that and say the fact that France and England divvied up that land in themselves and then turned those lands into independent nations where they had disregard for ethnic what's it called, ethnic boundaries,
Okay.
as well as religious boundaries, which there had been conflict in the region for centuries
Yeah.
regarding the ethnic and the religious.
Yeah.
That caused some of the tension. And a lot of people point to that, which is one of the many causes for ISIS, as well as U.S. intervention later.
Okay, that's fine. So on that topic, then let's take a different example. So, World War II.
Okay.
A lot of people have different opinions on what caused it to start, right?
Okay.
Well, I mean, like some people are saying it was more so like, okay, so here's a couple opinions that I've heard. One is it was a deep state operation to denounce Hitler by making him by like he wanted power, so they give him some power. They know he's gonna abuse it. They know he's gonna fuck up with it. That's why they give it to him, and so they give him all this shit, and it happens. So that's the one opinion. Another opinion is it just like it was a result of his childhood where he couldn't cope with certain shit and just started going. He got more zealous and outrageous after he was discommunicated from his art school, so on and so forth, and then he became a monster.
I don't think those two are mutually exclusive.
It's not. It's just a couple examples out of bajillions.
Uh-huh.
And another one, the one that I believe mostly, is that there was a landing in 1930, what was it, 5 roughly, and that was when Germany hit its peak in terms of its like societal comforts after World War I. And I have seen documentaries that kind of talk about this period of time, but they don't go into it. They like to focus more on the politics of matter. And the reason why I want to bring these things up is because depending on where you come at from the story, you're going to have something else to point the finger at.
Okay.
And I think the reason why we're on this in the first place is because it's like, okay, it seems like there's a big opinion of war is a constant state here. War is always going to be a thing for us. And yes, human beings have known war the entirety of our existence. Unfortunately, our existence is not very large. Not very large. We're still very much an adolescent
And you're
species.
thinking that we're going to move away from war as
We already are.
we already are. We've seen wars get less common. Of course, there's bigger nations. There's been consolidation of states, and we have bigger nations now. And there's much more treaties, things. Communication is much more rampant. There's information wars going on. There's cultural wars going on within nations, and civil wars, of course.
Which end up causing the limiting of physical wars, in my opinion.
But there's not many wars between different countries. There's not as many as there used to be.
Oh, it was. It's statistically, especially, it's as low as it's ever been.
Statistically, yes.
Well,
but how much will the statistics tell you about what's going on in the Middle East?
Quite a bit.
Are you sure?
They'll
tell you that?
No,
Middle East is the only war zone left on planet
And
Earth.
That's not necessarily true, but there's
never
also
mind.
African regions.
I was about to say South America and Africa is kind of rough, but
The South American.
if we're talking pure war zone on like the scale of anything in the past, Middle East is like war's like really down, guys. I mean, I know that we can say it's really good, but I think that's only because we're in the information age. If you want to talk about like the pure facts here and not just thinking about
speculation,
Oh, like the utilitarian perspective?
Yeah, well, the realist fucking perspective, like shit's as good as it's ever been, and maybe
yes,
I mean,
yes, I agree with that.
That's my point. I'm
I'm
not saying there's not a lot of war, because there's still a lot of war. Of course, there's the Middle East. There's obviously all those fucking African crazy ass warlords.
Yeah.
Here's a fairly interesting thing I've seen.
fucking bullets all over them.
Yeah, it was like,
Sorry.
bring me that man's head.
I just wanted to.
No, here's something interesting I've seen where people say war drives innovation, which
That's
I
a
don't.
common excuse I find.
I don't even find it's an excuse. I find it's just something that people say that
That's a blind point.
I don't know that it's true.
I don't think it's true.
precisely.
I don't think it's true.
It might not be true.
I think it's a blind side of
Like you
I see
can
where it's coming from, but I don't agree.
Yeah, I don't know that. I haven't looked into it
It's not.
too much myself, but I have seen things where people say, "Oh, you leave nations at peace for so long, and their culture degradates over time."
Says the
Either-
warmonger.
And they're taken over by external threats, or they're taken over by internal threats.
Any event or any problem pushes innovation, though.
But,
War is just such a big and obvious problem that people will point to and say,
but it also
this is
the
what
thing.
caused it to
The
happen.
thing is, war
But this
also
happens all the time.
destroys a lot of things.
Well, that's what it's meant to do.
War is more bad than good. You can't.
You can't fight that.
It's a
For an
really
example-
dumb argument to say it pushes things forward without knowing what the cause is.
An example.
That's such a blind.
example.
That's such a blind statement.
Hold on a
Sorry.
An example is the Cold War, which it's a war in a loose sense. Obviously, it's a Cold War, but it's a war in a loose sense just because there's no actual real fighting.
Well, not that you see.
Not that you see,
That's the point.
but what you don't see, what you do see is you see the space race going on. You see the information warfare going on, which definitely improved technology dramatically, and it improves space technology dramatically.
Right.
Which I don't know that that's just because of previous innovations that have been built upon and that were inevitable, or if it was what's it called?
And so I understand your point of view here because I'm a little unclear.
Yeah.
Are you saying that although war is a terrible thing, it does have a benefit?
I'm
just kind of understanding your thought
yeah,
I think
process.
it's more of a devil's advocate thing, not that.
No.
Yeah.
It's more of I don't know, and these are some of the positive things that may be causing it. And these are some of the arguments I have seen in favor of it.
Okay.
But I'm also saying these are some counterpoints. This may have already been
So you're
happening.
really putting out all the options then.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I don't know myself.
True.
Just because I haven't done a deep dive into looking into it. But I also think that war sometimes breeds some innovation because it forces people in struggles. Because it's just what war is just a struggle. Struggle, I find, breeds intelligence and innovation.
So here's my question to you then.
Yes.
different types of struggle. Because that's the key.
depends.
No, that's
There's
the key.
always
Though.
struggle is the key.
No, there's not always struggle.
There's always struggle.
No, I think
Even if it's small struggle,
yeah.
society. The point that correct me if I'm wrong, but the point that your example is trying to make is that war has this special kind of push on people. I don't get it then.
No,
Yeah,
well,
so
I'm just saying it might be and it might not be. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the point.
The thing I'm saying about war is I'm not sure what war does.
No, I'm not talking about what you're saying, but I'm talking about the point that you're bringing up. Is the point that you're bringing up suggesting that war has a special sort of drive, air quotations, special sort of drive to humans that we kind of need?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is
no, I'm not saying
no. Wait, hold on a second. I'm saying that struggle and people struggling is what pushes innovation.
No,
and is something that human beings need. And war is just an example of some sort of struggle. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
No, I agree with that though.
Yeah.
Because that's when I agree with that. I don't agree with the example saying like war is what does it, guys. That's dumb.
And, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be war.
Hear me out. I totally agree. Humans will just always find a solution to problems constantly. Like we're not naturally complacent.
No, we're not.
No,
I mean, I know society's been trying to. I won't segue back into deep state stuff, but I think that people are trying to make us complacent, but it just doesn't happen. War is a one example of things that push us forward, and we don't need. My point is, we don't need.
And
I think that's a really blind and very blunt point. That sounds good.
To say we need it.
That sounds good. When
Yeah.
you think about it for 2 minutes and you think, why?
A big argument.
That's dumb. I think that's
A big argument against social media, for example, is that it breeds complacency.
Yeah, and it does.
Which I don't necessarily disagree with.
You disagree with that?
No, I say I don't necessarily disagree with it.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I think with
Can't say
moderation,
something I feel strongly about though.
but I think with moderation that the use of social media can improve.
And what do you
And
think
can
about?
improve communication, because communication is a very, very
Yeah, of
important
course.
thing.
But
The Telegram, for example, was a massive innovation in war.
great, cool.
Not in war, in communication.
everything.
And it allowed global communication, and it allowed for minds all around the world to work together.
Yeah.
Along with translations and improvements in
Okay, that's
shipping
great.
technology.
Fantastic.
And I'm thinking that, communication technology, and I think this is rather obvious to most people, is that it allows people to improve themselves and improve the world in general.
You know what's not obvious to most people?
What?
The fact that most social media sites are engineered and manufactured to function like a gambling addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
So that's where the social media becomes a problem. And this
Yes.
is just a side little note, whatever. But like the Telegram and all sorts of things that improve general communication, fantastic, great. Improve all the way you want. If you're gonna do it for that and that alone, we're not gonna get products like Facebook and Twitter and all these things because they're engineered to get you invested in the process of it all.
And this is why I said in moderation.
But that's the problem.
No,
is you say moderation, but if you go into gambling, if you get into an addictive drug, your moderation is going to go out the window.
No. I mean, when I say moderation, because even if you use it to communicate with people,
Yeah.
If you use social media, because many people are on social media nowadays.
Yes.
If you want to message a very important figure, a good way to do it is usually through Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, if you want to get a message out there, or if you want to spread to a whole lot of people, like protests, for example. Protests aren't necessarily bad, and protests aren't necessarily good.
I think they're futile.
It depends.
Depends on your point of view. Yeah.
But if people want to organize a protest, oftentimes they'll go through Twitter, and they'll say, hey, I want to organize a protest on this day. This is the plan, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
If you're with me, come here. And often people will spread that around, and there will be a protest. It's not all the time.
Yeah.
I said often. It's not even really often.
Yeah. It
People
happens.
try to organize protests all the time, and they never happen.
Yeah.
But when they do happen,
It happens.
it happens.
And that's a good thing. That's one good thing out of a couple good things.
And this is why I say,
Yeah. What's up?
Sorry.
in moderation.
I want to get this out.
Yeah.
as well.
Do it.
There's a difference between card counters and gamblers.
Haha.
There's a difference between people who know the game but still play it, and there's a difference between people who are sucked into the game.
Yes.
If you know it, if you're like even half intelligent, social media can't get a grip on you. Social media is designed for the weak, and it's designed to enslave the weak.
I can agree with that.
No,
I don't disagree.
I'm not even going to laugh that point off. I think
it's just a very brutal way to put it.
Sometimes you need brutality.
And it's brutally true. This is why the saying exists. It's brutally true.
That's just I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say.
No, but that's a really good point.
And something else that I find is brutally true, brutally necessary, is taxes. Leading back in.
Now, why is that? Because I don't understand taxes.
We got into our talk of war.
Terrible.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
Hold on.
I'm going off.
Hold your pants on there for a second.
Put the brakes on.
Put the brakes on there.
We'll be done in 15
Quick,
minutes.
man. Slow down.
I'd enjoy a more civil conversation.
Oh, do you? More civilized with your pinky up. Sorry.
But, yes, of course, pinky up. It's very necessary. No, I was just going to say, war, yes, I agree with self-defense. I agree also that war is becoming obsolete as time goes on.
Going way back.
So you were talking about
we were talking about how
taxes again.
But because
I was going to ask you about it.
I was going to link back in where I was going to.
Yeah. Where's my money, Will?
Stolen.
Literally stolen.
Oh my god! How many times do I have to tell you?
I'm going to
spit it out. Do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, come on. Get your point out so I can fire off.
So the military, it's important for self-defense, and then we've gotten to the topic of allies, and because you had mentioned that it was necessary, war wasn't necessary for not protecting your own nation.
I said that?
I think Karen said. Someone said that.
I don't think war is necessary at all.
Back it up.
But no. But what about protecting yourself? Would you say protecting yourself is necessary?
Yeah, but protecting yourself is not war.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
What if someone else is protecting you?
I don't need someone else to protect me.
We should. The key here is that we shouldn't be relying.
Yes.
I truly believe that our nation.
Listen to this.
We need to become purely dependent only on ourselves. We should stop relying. As Canada is such a good example of it.
Oh fuck yeah.
We need to stop being bitches.
Oh yeah.
Fuck this shit. It's ridiculous how we still have ties to the fucking crown that enslaved us. Are you fucking kidding me? Tell them to fuck off. Honestly, I don't even care. You can say it's ceremonial. You can say it's just for formality. Tell them to fuck off. Tell them we're by ourselves.
Yeah.
There's so much dumb shit. There's so many small things too. Like look at Quebec. They want to do their own thing. They want to be cockbags. Then tell them to fuck off. They want to leave. Say go ahead and leave. Take no benefits with you.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hate shit like this. I hate how we're such a pussy of a country.
And that is why I say we're a gray state.
There was something funny a while back where
there was some good to that though.
I think the UK still owns our Declaration of Independence, or whatever our Declaration.
We took it back.
And then I think we stole it back. Or no, Australia. I think Australia stole it.
No. Harper, or it wasn't Harper. It was I think it was the first Trudeau. He got it back.
Okay.
He
that's good.
Normally got it back.
I know Australia. This is it's a very interesting thing where Australia, they had their 50th or the 20th year of independence thing. And they say to Britain, "Hey, can we have our thing to put it on a shrine temporarily?" Obviously,
shrine,
or something.
That's quite a term there.
Whatever, to put it on a plaque.
The Queen,
the golden kangaroo.
To put it on a plaque.
Yeah, a plaque. Sorry.
And have it displayed to a whole bunch of our citizenry, to show how
independent we are.
Our independence, and celebrate it.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, yeah, you can take it back afterwards to England."
Afterwards, what?
After the celebration day.
The celebration day.
In
where
Australia.
the Day of Independence, whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
so,
I got you.
What happened?
Yeah, they're shit.
What happened was the UK go to take it back, and the Australian Prime Minister just nope, we're not getting it back. We're keeping it now.
Yeah, but wait. So what? Is the common opinion that they stole it? What's the thing there?
So technically they stole it because the promise they had made was to give it and then give it back.
I understand.
Because technically England owns it. Because they're declaring independence from England, but they're not even declaring independence from England. England has given them
No, I
their
understand.
autonomy.
I understand. They're just getting a formality, but
They're just
like
taking,
they're just getting their declaration of whatever.
yeah, because technically it's not a declaration of independence. It's a provision of autonomy. Rather.
I know this is really unhealthy for the conversation, but I really feel like this is just one of those things. I really feel like I got to know the story here.
Okay, yeah.
To have a proper opinion, or even for
I don't know a whole lot about it.
I really don't feel like I should This is just one of those times. I know it's a weird, small thing. I don't know.
Okay, then how about this?
I'm not going to say anything of value unless.
Okay, then wait a minute. Wait. Okay, so
I don't think I'm going to.
Let me bridge the gap then. Instead of going with all of the examples, I'll ask a question about my own.
No, usually examples are okay, but this is just
like let him go for it.
So I said to you earlier before Will showed up.
Yep.
Sic semper tyrannis, which means thus always to tyrants. And that speaks out against basically anyone who could be a tyrant. Now, if you take something from a tyrant, which is you stole from them, but it's like, is that really a terrible thing? Because these tyrants are tyrants because they have so much, and if they're doing it to hurt people, then maybe having your little declaration of whatever the fuck it is not like even if you stole it by their definition, they're tyrants. So who cares if you're independent?
But it's sort of like the argument of stealing for food, where if you're starving and you have no food to eat and you steal food in order to eat, is that necessarily a bad thing or an evil thing that you stole?
So there we go.
It's
fuck good and evil, right and wrong. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's more of a what's the good of an action, what's the bad of an action,
the repercussions.
It's what we define.
Yeah, it's a perspective.
Okay,
it's totally
a perspective, and then B, it's if you want to look at it from an outsider perspective, what's more good, feeding the person or the theft, the act of theft?
Utilitarian sort of.
Some people might say it's the theft that's evil, and some people may say it's the theft that's evil, and some people might say, oh, the fact that they're being fed is good.
What do you guys feel about the concept of good and bad?
It only exists for the simple mind. It only exists in your base level of thinking where you're making decisions, where yes, it does exist and you can't deny it, because that's how you weigh decisions and that's how you decide what should I do in any given moment. You can't deny that, Wes. When you decide
I can rename it.
When you decide to
but then you're having an argument of semantics.
No, I'm not. Because here's the thing. No, if I say right and wrong, then we're going off points of view. If I say positive and negative, those are things that are physically, scientifically, and otherwise provable.
Semantics.
No, not semantics. No, because what happens is if something's positive, it gets added, right? If it's negative, it gets subtracted.
I wasn't getting it.
No, that's fine. But my point is, if we understand, so killing people is wrong, right? But it gets kind of gray because what if you're protecting yourself? That sort of thing, right? Killing people is extremely negative because you're taking something away from the universe. There's that. Can there be positive portions of this? There can be. Is it negative at its base? Yes.
Here's a question.
What's that?
If you're taking away a negative thing from the universe, does it then result in a positive thing? Because you take a negative away from a negative,
well, that's the whole reason why I don't agree with why we define paradoxes as being impossible, because the universe works on paradoxes. There is equal. No, I'm not going to say that. There is. The universe as far as I'm aware, I'm just a human, just a guy sitting here, don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But as far as I'm aware, universe is totally positive, and negative portions are aspects that are activated in the universe to instigate change. So if I kill someone, I'm taking a personality off this planet, let's say, just for the bear of it.
Okay.
And that is a negative action. Now, maybe this person was a negative person and did a lot of negative things.
Okay.
Me getting rid of it could have positive effects.
A net positive.
Well, I'm not going to say net positive because it's kind of Because that's kind of like saying it's generally a positive thing that this person was killed.
No, I'm not saying it generally positive. I'm saying
The net worth of it all was positive.
yeah, net worth.
So generally, yes.
No, that's not what generally means.
No, I'm not talking about the definition. I'm just talking about. Never mind.
I'm talking about like if you say net. So you take all the negatives, like so. Let's say -1,000, -100, and -10. And then you do a positive 1,000,000.
Okay.
The net is it's a net positive.
So the generality of it is positive.
I guess you could say general.
Okay, so
it's that point again.
He's saying that taking away from the bad.
Yeah. So now the reason why I will stick to these things as positive and negative is because you can measure this. You can say, okay, something is not in the world anymore. That's a minus. But this person can do more now, let's say, because this person is gone. So it's a positive. And because both these things exist, you can't say killing is wrong or this guy's being a dad is wrong. But it is absolutely both positive and negative. Things that you can follow through.
Oh, you're talking about how every action has negative connotations.
No, I understand what he's saying.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
He's really saying what I wanted to say right now.
Oh, there we go.
Kind of. My only
what?
My only other point is that like you just basically explained why in an objective sense good and bad doesn't exist because you you can't quantify it. You know what your explanation.
I do think we're agreed on this.
But
I just think that the only thing we disagree on, and I'm not sure that we do necessarily disagree on this, is what is a negative action and what's positive action.
What I was gonna say was that that's the only way that good and bad could be ever defined, and I think it's impossible to define because it's it only exists from the subjective personal point of view.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the key point. But you can't deny its existence either because that's how you make so many decisions.
That's why it's a paradox,
and that's why it. Well, no, it's just
it doesn't exist, but it does exist at the same time.
It's just the good old way of putting it is that if you've ever looked into physics, there's a difference between the theory of there's like the difference between I might get this wrong, atomic theory and the theory of relativity, because you're looking at two separate worlds and two separate ideas that somehow exist together.
Oh, you mean no? What you're talking about is quantum theory and special plus. General relativity.
Yeah. Could you explain that to me a little bit?
Oh, so general and special relativity is on the macro scale,
it's just the example
and it's very, very large things like gravity or even
micro,
or even atoms being attracted together. That's still on the macro level. Concept. If you look below the atom, like it's things that are even smaller than the atom, or even photons,
quarks,
you know how you've heard,
like
you know how you've heard things. I've heard before where light is both a wave and a particle.
Yeah, that pisses me off so much.
Yeah, that's quantum theory.
Okay, I get you.
And the problem here is that essentially the problem with these theories is, well, I've just been able to say it because he stopped talking, or he was about to say it, but he stopped talking. Is both of these theories have things that are like without a doubt true about them.
Yeah,
but the problem is that aspects of these theories conflict.
No, hold on a second. They don't conflict. They just don't work on large, like a general and special relativity don't work on smaller scales.
That's how they conflict.
And quantum theory doesn't work on larger scales.
Right.
And there's this cutoff point where
that's the key.
They don't work higher than this, and they don't work lower than this.
And yet on their own on that scale.
What people are trying to do. This is the modern context. Not the modern context, but the modern attempt. What they're trying to do. This is what they're trying to do in modern science, is they're trying to connect those two theories together and find some way for those two theories to work together and be a general theory. It would be called the general theory.
I like the theory of everything.
And the
theory of everything.
That confuses me a lot because why can't both of these things just be true?
No.
Why?
No, they both hold on a second. They both are true, but they are both also not. It's sort of like
it's a paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
And it exists.
I knew exactly what you're going to say.
And it exists.
But
what's the point?
But the thing is, generally, we want to see if this thing is actually a paradox, because what most paradoxes are is usually faulty logic, and most paradoxes can be
that's what I'm talking about right there.
By faulty logic.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
And B, they're trying to unite the two theories into one.
Okay, so there's what I'm talking about. The normal human perception of paradox is that it's something that conflicts and therefore cannot exist.
Yeah.
So that's incorrect though, because the universe works on paradoxes, which means that they must exist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's sort of like this statement is. It's sort of like saying this statement is false. Where you can't necessarily. See, it's hard to even think about.
It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. But how about both?
Yeah, that's actually probably a good. I won't get into the science.
Or
I won't get
because
into
the second you think about anything, both doesn't exist. That's it. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's hard to. It's
That's
hard to
right,
hold two states of truth in your mind when they could be conflicting with each other.
It's hard for humans to contemplate that because we're human. Unfortunately, we're not the only beings in the galaxy, and I'm not going to get into this whole thing. But
We went into that in the last episode.
Yeah,
check it out.
The ones who have I guess a bigger perspective don't have a lot of problems with our kind of scientific and logic problems, because it's for them it's common knowledge that paradoxes exist in everything and in all, and that it's how it all works.
Well, I don't necessarily think that paradoxes. I think paradoxes exist, but they only exist due to faults in logic that can be solved.
I don't know about that.
And their challenges.
That one.
It's like paradoxes are puzzles. Is a good way to describe it.
That's good.
Paradoxes are puzzles that people attempt to solve.
You're trying to say that things can just be impossible.
No, I know. I'm saying that nothing is impossible because paradoxes aren't impossible.
What you're trying to say is that like these quote unquote limits in paradoxes in reality don't exist.
Yes,
and that we should stop thinking.
Yes,
okay. I understand where you're coming from now, but not all paradoxes have that problem.
So
a lot of them are literally just faulty logic.
So give me an example of one.
Of a paradox
with faulty logic.
A good one is no. I think a better one.
So why can't it be both? And why can't that be a total
basic? Because it's not asking a question that could literally have two answers. It's just asking a question of biology that can literally just be answered.
With what?
With knowing what happened then using biology.
No.
So do you think an objective fact that solves the paradox?
Wait. What do you mean? What's the objective fact?
I can't. I think so. I didn't really want to get into the science of this earlier, but I think we have to. Basically, do you know how evolution works?
I have a pretty decent idea.
Okay, just to describe it generally.
For people who don't fucking know.
Evolution.
If you watching this,
yeah. If you don't know, you gotta get out of here, man.
Evolution is small changes from generation to generation.
Yeah.
That may seem small, and are small generally, from generation to generation, but over time result in big changes.
Yeah.
An example of this is if you look at what different races, quote unquote races around the world, that's diversified. What's it called? Not innovation, but diversified.
Evolution.
No, like evolution. Genealogy in order to better fit your environment.
Okay.
Black skin versus lighter skin. Like
I don't like these word versus, but
darker skin versus lighter skin. Is a race?
Yeah, give it a wrist bar. It's all good.
No. The reason that exists is to in the north, it's better to combat what's it called? I'm forgetting the word. I don't even remember what the disease is called, but it's better to conflict one like sun disease in the north.
Okay.
Away from the equator, where the sun is closest, closer to the earth.
Are you talking about sickle cell anemia?
Wow, no, not sickle cell anemia. That's another thing.
Sorry, I was kind of like.
And then closer to the center of the earth, it's better to conflict against skin cancer with dark skin.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why that exists.
Huh.
So where evolution takes place with the chicken and the egg, basically. Where you define where the chicken starts is the important point.
Yeah. Because
the first chicken, it starts off with the egg, but that egg did not come from the egg did not come from a chicken. it came from something you could call a proto-chicken.
So then that's, I guess, what I would like to get into is because I don't think you're ever good. Like, if you say this egg did not come from a chicken, it's like, okay, so you're saying that this being, this creature, which has enough of a chicken in it, and that's not quite the right way to say that, but enough chicken-like features that it could produce a legit chicken, then perhaps it is so minute, the changes are so minute that you can't really quantify them, which therefore means that it's both the chicken and the egg.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's both those no matter what, then the answer is both.
I understand how that works.
I understand.
No, like that's the problem. That's the whole argument.
It is.
The argument is definitions. It's how long ago does it start?
No, not all paradoxes.
The argument is how long ago did it start? How long ago did the chicken start? Because we can look back and we can say, okay, over on the far left end, that's not a chicken. But over on the far right end, that is a chicken.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere in the middle there where it's the gray area of is that a chicken or not.
But no matter what, it's both those things.
Well, here's the key though.
Yeah, no, it's just hard to measure.
There's a difference.
Forget measuring it.
There's a difference between paradoxes that.
I don't necessarily think that's a paradox. I think it's just arguments of definitions.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's a difference between these things that play on definitions or are just like, are you going to use a logic that would solve this problem?
But also we talk.
Or is there legit paradoxes that are legit conflicts in the way that we think, such as the physics theory?
Which is why I like to bring up why I don't like our current human definition of paradox.
Okay.
Because it's our definition that I feel is the most corrupt, that fucks us up a lot.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, if someone says there will never be peace, technically that person is right. Okay. If someone says war will end very soon, technically that person is also right. And there's the paradox there. Because that shouldn't be able to happen by our definition of what the paradox is. Yet, that is the case, definitively. Because no matter where you are in the universe, there will always be conflict. Always. But on our planet, the conflict is starting to cease.
Again, it's a matter of definitions. Yeah. And B,
that's my battle right there. Fuck the definitions. It's pissing me off.
I think if you want to say that we shouldn't use the word paradox and you want to redefine paradox, I think maybe you should just use a different word.
Which word?
I don't know.
So that's the problem.
I don't know the entire.
That's what me, the writer, is trying to get to.
There probably is another word for that describes that. I just don't know it.
I don't think it's been invented yet.
I can't think of it.
Go ahead and invent a word then.
I'm gonna start.
Do it.
I've already started. There's actually a portion in the next in either this book that I'm writing now or in the next one where someone from the future, a supposed future, comes over here and gives us their version of what words should be. And when I say that, I'm not saying that because they're from the future, they know what's up. No, it's a guy from a possible future. So he has his maybe this is a better way. And you guys can read that and you can say, maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't make sense. At least you're fucking thinking about it though.
I mean, maybe an interesting thing to do is instead of changing the definitions of words, you maybe want to just invent new words.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
it's hard to invent new words, no doubt.
I'm going to need to literally. I actually despise the English language. I think it's dysfunctional.
It is dysfunctional, but it's hard to comprehend that when that's all you speak.
Yeah, exactly right. Which is why I'm trying to get into more languages and B trying to what do you call it?
It's not a bad language, but
and in English,
it's not a bad language, but
there's a lot of faulty things that I don't like.
There's things that conflict or too similar.
Yeah, for example,
concepts that should exist.
There's a word I want to use that is almost like paradox, but that word has not been invented yet.
Then make the word.
I'm going to, but we're not there yet. I need to become influential enough. People say, "Hey, maybe he has a point." Oh,
fuck it. Just let's have a brief explanation and just say it.
If hold on a second. If you start using the word, then eventually.
Okay, so here's I think the next possible word that I could use is axiom. Which is something that is...
That's already a word, though.
Exactly, but it's the closest next thing that I could use. But it still doesn't quite...
Change a letter or two, man.
No, hold on a second. What I'm saying, I'm not suggesting use a different word.
Is create a new one.
I'm saying literally create one from scratch.
Yeah.
Make the word SCH FQ.
Great, cool. And let's say that's what it means, right? In order for me to start using that in everyday things,
Okay.
other people have to be using it with me.
Okay.
Because we co-create.
Someone needs to start.
So that's just it. I have to become a little influential first before I introduce the concept of this.
For it to become influential, it needs to start from nothing.
Exactly. I need to start getting there.
That
Like,
means
A good example.
I'm doing it.
A
Currently.
good example of this
Me
is
being here is
where
part of it.
there you go. There you go. What?
There you go.
You're already doing it.
I'm starting slowly.
a good example of this is where I've used the word either vernacular or I've used the word I've used the word acquiesce, and you guys are like, what the hell does that mean?
No, I know what all that means.
Yeah, but so many people are like, what the hell does that mean? And
Yeah, aren't they?
then, like, people don't use that in general English language,
Yeah.
but they're words in the English language, and I use them, but people, how to describe it? They're not generally known. So you could just invent a word that's it's obviously not generally known
Yeah.
because it's not known at all. So you can start.
Oh,
spreading
you're
it around.
saying just put it out there, just
Yeah,
fucking
if
randomly.
you put it out there, and there's a group of people using it.
And then you start saying, "Oh, but it means this," and then suddenly it means something because you're informing
That's how
them.
words work.
Yeah, but okay, you know what? I agree with that. I I think what I was kind of stuck on was mass knowledge versus like the individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but mass change starts on the individual.
Well, that's why I'm starting with a book. Okay, so the biggest thing that I'm working on in my life, period, is my writing. Because, and I don't expect to be like popular in my lifetime. I'm hoping to be like a H.P. Lovecraft type of person where it's like, hey, in the next fucking 50 years, that's what he was talking about. Oh, I get it now. And then it's like, okay, so he was talking about these fictitious things that are happening, but why are these fictitious things starting? And so it's like, it's
meant to be more of a thought piece than a.
Once again, it's the same process.
It's a timeless thing.
It's a time
That's
capsule.
how anyone should write, really.
And
That's how anyone should. That's a good job.
Well, I'm trying to go that way.
That's the best way to do it.
Here's an advice for anyone who wants to start writing. Okay, don't do it for success. Don't do it for money. Don't do it because you think people will like you for it. Just if you have an idea that you would like to see on a movie or in a book that you want to read, write the story you want to read.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's more of a thing like pursue. That's just more of like a pursue your dreams.
No, I
situation.
understand.
Well,
what he's saying.
I do understand what you're saying.
He's saying express yourself, don't express your desires.
Because
I think that's
yes. Because if you start expressing your desires and how things should be, you're going to run into writer blocks that piss you off because it seems like you never get out of them. But if you just establish your freedom over your own creativity, you should never run into a block.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and that means like, oh, I woke up at 6 o'clock. I have to write a whole chapter. No. Wake up, write like a paragraph. It's like, oh, I'm lazy. I just want to go play COD for a bit. Go play fucking COD for a bit, whatever. Come back to it when your creativity feels like you need to come back to it. And that's how I think. And George R. R. Martin has said that he does a similar kind of thing. I don't quite agree with his timeline of releasing books, but it's the same thing. Write whenever you want to, and don't force yourself into shit you don't want to do. That's how to kill the passion.
Yeah. Okay. That's like a more power to you, dude.
Basically.
Situation.
But that's my whole purpose of being here on this planet is just, hey, more power to you guys. That's why I'm here.
There's nothing I could have done, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's not me, bro. It's all y'all guys.
Actually, that's pretty.
Should we end it off here?
Dude, I honestly think that's a good place to end it off. We never really talked about taxes.
The way it should be. Fuck taxes. All right. And with that, let's do an outro.
Dude, we'll probably talk about taxes on a later date.
I really want to talk about this.
But
This is a fun.
I do want to. I might just edit around so we don't talk about taxes.
No,
I'll take out a little bit at the beginning so we get into an actual conversation.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then I will
Shit on
leave this
it
part in at the end
cool.
to explain why there's probably a little jump at the beginning to explain
If you want to
At the end of
explain,
the
or
video,
just
why
don't
are you so
explain.
confused?
Yeah, once you're all confused as shit, I'll explain it.
Why I keep bringing up taxes throughout the video? Why would you
I really need this,
This
guys.
was a fun one. I like that.
Yeah.
This is really
It was
nice.
a cute little.
A cute
Okay.
little podcast.
Anyway,
Wait, let's do a big outro.
that's
Okay.
what was I doing?
Well, you just gotta say who are you?
Do it.
Who the
Dude,
fuck are you?
I think we need to talk about who we are.
I don't know how to do that.
I am
Cam.
Zognor from the planet Zimbabwe.
No, I was gonna say, Cam, do you want to link yourself anywhere? No, you don't, because you don't have anything, do
Oh,
you?
shit.
I got it.
Whoa. Throwing some shade
I
on
don't
there.
have anything on there.
Throwing
Besides,
Yeah.
I think you might have saw.
You just want to say goodbye?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll be on like I always am. I'll see you.
I'll see you in the next run around,
And
guys.
now I want to say, Wesley wants to, of course, plug himself and
I'm
then
gonna
say
plug
goodbye.
myself full of plugs. You ready? Here we go.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
getting
that
deep
kind of
now.
content. What type of plugs are we? What type of plugs?
You know what kind of plugs I'm. No, I'm joking. Wattpad. Go on Wattpad. Check out WC. Actually, if you go on Google and type in WC Hotchkiss, you'll find a bunch of my shit. If you go on
Okay.
YouTube and type in Man of Toast,
What was the zero?
What was the zeros? But I mean, you're gonna find it eventually. You're not whatever the fuck.
Just
You
as
can-
previously, we'll link it.
Yeah, you can watch me make stupid videos about conspiracies that are they're fucking crazy.
They're
Anyway,
good videos. Don't worry.
I like them. I find them fun. All right.
And I don't really have anything to plug yet.
Yet. You will.
Same here. You know what? Same here. I'll leave it at that.
Yet.
I want to make.
You guys have bright creative futures ahead of you.
Soon to
Of
TM.
course.
Soon to TM.
Hey, that's
TM.
my thing. But anyway,
That's everyone's thing.
I've been Will. That's
I've been
Cam.
Will.
That's been Wesley, and we'll see you next time.
Please, bitches.
Dude, you're swearing in my Christian Minecraft.
My Christian
How long
Minecraft
was that?
video.
My Christian
How long
Minecraft
was it, like an
podcast.
hour?